Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ohio Huntsman podcast with your hosts Jason, Jacob, and Jeff. And today's episode is sort of our stories from turkey camp. We went down to our hunting cabin in southeast Ohio and did some turkey hunting. And if you've been following us on social at all, you may or may not have seen the outcomes of that. But before we get into that, I want to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor for this podcast for Ohio Huntsman is Monster Whitetail Grub. You've heard us talk a lot about Monster Whitetail Grub. They're a great company. They're a great Ohio company, and they make a great deer feed product. So right now is a good time to be getting feed out for antler growth, getting mineral out for antler growth. So they sell a high-protein feed. They sell flavored corn. They sell just straight mineral. Their high-protein feed has mineral mixed in, so you kind of get the best of both. And like I said, right now, antlers are starting to grow. Fawns will be dropping. So it's a great time to get the nutrition out for your deer, get the nutrition out for antler growth. And so if you're interested in any of that, there'll be a link in our show notes to Monster Whitetail Grub's Facebook page. That's the best way to kind of get a hold of them and reach out to them if you are interested in some of their product. And so with that, I'm sitting here watching the rain. I don't know how it's been where you guys are, but lots of rain here. My grass is like 1.5 feet long because I haven't been able to mow it. And so instead I recorded the podcast intro. And that's enough rambling. Let's get into the episode. Oh, and one last thing, we recorded this on my phone in Jacob's truck while we were down at the cabin, so that's why the audio sounds a little different. So now, this time, let's get into the episode. Okay, we're down here at the cabin. We are sitting in our, as we've called it before, our mobile recording studio, which is also doubles as Jacob's truck. And we are going to just sort of run through how our weekend's gone. It's Saturday evening of our turkey hunting weekend. And just kind of take you guys along with how things went this weekend, what kind of turkey action we got into, and anything else interesting we want to talk about. So Jacob and I came down Thursday night after work and got up and hunted Friday morning. Friday morning was anybody that hunted the first weekend of turkey season. I don't know if it was the whole state, but I know down here, southeastern Ohio, rain. The morning actually looked kind of hopeful because it was just a light rain. So we went out kind of hopeful, but I know there was at least one point in the morning where it was quite a downpour. But I guess let's maybe go sequentially here, right? So we started, Jake, you and Dad went out together, right?
Yeah. Dad and I went out, and Dad, or the old man as I call him, he, I can't say it's an ineffective way to hunt turkey, but he has a unique way to hunt turkey. If they're not gobbling, he's not hunting them. He wants the birds to be talking. He does not sit still. That's just how he's always hunted them.
I think that's how a lot of people hunt them, though.
Yeah.
Like
he has little to no interest in setting up and calling a turkey in that's not gobbling. So we kind of did run and gun. All the spots he knew of, we kind of just bounced around.
Because that's the most exciting way, right? Like, if they're gobbling and you're calling them and they're responding, like, that's it, man. That's the hot setup. But if they're not doing that, like, and that's where I struggle, too, is, like, if they're not gobbling, then I'm kind of lost. Like, I just feel like I'm wandering around the woods or driving from spot to spot and hit the call and no response. And, you know, so that was your guys' Friday. I got a little action, so you guys have heard us talk before, like our cabin is down in the bottom of a valley, and so on either side of the road we can hunt, and so I went all the way down to the end of the road, and basically you can walk the ridge from, you know, if you drive up to the top, you can walk the ridge back to our cabin, basically. And so that's what I did. And if you followed on stories, I hit, sort of mid-morning, I hit my crow call and had a gobble, you know, had a gobbler respond.
when I figured out sort of where that turkey was, it was way on private, so I sort of turned around and continued on my way. When I got back down this way, there's a field up above our cabin across the street, and sort of snuck my way out there, and I did see 2 turkeys out there. And so I stood there for a while and watched them to try to figure out what they were. Because from where I was, I couldn't see a beard initially. So I watched them for a little bit, and then I did see that one had a beard, and so I was trying to sneak closer to the field edge, because I called a little bit, and it didn't run away, it didn't spook them, but I also, they weren't coming any closer to the edge of the woods. And so I was trying to sneak closer and closer and closer to the field edge to where if they did wander by where I was, I would have a clear shot. And at some point through all of this, I had lost track of where the tom was. I don't know if I said, I did eventually identify that there was a hen and a tom is what was out in the field. And I was getting closer, and I could see the hen, and I had lost track of where the tom was. She was facing directly away from me, feeding, and I'm sneaking closer. All of a sudden, she takes off running, and I looked to my right, and as I was sneaking closer to the field, I apparently moved into a gap to where the tom could see me, and I'm sure he saw me moving in there, and that was that. They took off running, and that was pretty much, it was around 11:15 or something on Friday, and that was basically more or less the end of my hunting on Friday. And then we did some chores and stuff around the cabin that day. It cleared up in the afternoon. And then, Jeff, you came down Friday night.
Right, yep.
And so we all then went out and hunted Saturday morning, this morning. Like I said, this is Saturday evening. And I don't have much to add on this at this point. I sort of, like we talked, run and gun, trying to get a bird to gobble. And I can't say that I didn't see a turkey today. I saw one run across the road. I saw a hen run across the road, and I did jump a hen when I was coming down out of the woods at one point. But I never heard a gobble. I didn't even, we were talking earlier, I never really even saw any turkey sign. Like, I never saw turkey tracks. I think I only saw one little area where there was some scratching going on, so I don't know. And I even went over and tried not new, like we know this piece of public ground is over there, but we don't usually hunt it. And, nothing. I was hopeful for today because it was a nice day, sunny, it was cool. I figured for sure they would be gobbling after sort of being reined in yesterday, but, no luck. So, Jake, you had a little bit of excitement first thing this morning.
First thing in the morning, yeah. I was hopeful also, because, I sat through the rain the day before on Friday. So then this morning, my dad and I, again, he was basically calling for me, because if you listen to previous episodes, I've never shot a turkey. So he was going to be my call man, so I could just focus on shooting. And we went up on a piece of, it's a guy we know that lives down here on his property, so it's private. He's got like a old field that's not actively being used up behind his house. And I'd seen turkey up there before in years past. I jumped hens out of the field when deer hunting and stuff like that. So I know turkeys are kind of in the neighborhood. So I told my dad, hey, I want to go up here and try that this morning. We went up there, and it was like textbook. I mean, we were up there right when we weren't there before they came off the limb, because we didn't know exactly where they were, so it wouldn't have really done us that much of a benefit. I didn't know where they were roosting exactly. But we got up there, and no sooner did we get pretty much to where we wanted to be, and there was a turkey gobbling.
Were you calling to it at that point, or it just started gobbling on its own?
I think it was just gobbling on its own. I mean, Dad might have done one sequence. I mean, we weren't even set up yet at any.
Right, okay.
I mean, we were still walking, so he might have made a couple noises.
Yeah.
Just pulled it out of his pocket and, hit the calls a couple times, and but but there was certainly not much in the way of calling. And he was gobbling, and he was a good ways off. So then we, at that point, kind of stood still, and Dad kept making some calls, and it sounded like he started getting a little closer, so then we hurried up and tried to find a setup. And where we picked to set up wasn't good, really. No, it's hindsight, you know. You got a turkey gobbling, and you're trying not to mess it up. You just pick the best spot you could find. But hindsight, it wasn't that good of a spot. But we sat there, and, you know, I was right on the field edge, and my dad tucked in behind me a little bit and just kept, you know, doing different calling sequences and calling. And that Tom was fired up, gobbling, but it sounded like he was hung up. He wasn't coming any closer. He didn't go silent at that point. He was just still gobbling, but he wasn't closing the distance.
Where was he in relation to, like, was he below you? Was he on the same sort of elevation as you?
He was
or what
below
do you think?
me on the other ridge. Like, the field runs the top of the ridge.
Right.
And we were
on the right or left side of the field?
Basically on the right side of the field if you're looking from, it's a long, narrow field, basically. We were on the right side of the field. I mean, the field is only 40 yards across. You could shoot across the whole field. But it's got like a little hill because it's on top of the ridge. So if you're sitting on one side of the field, you can't really see the other side in terms of turkey.
Right.
Because they would be below the terrain. You know, their heads might pop up. But, so I was on the right side of the field. He was on the left side down below of the field.
Okay.
So he was just gobbling. So then we decided to, I mean, this was probably 20 minutes of him just gobbling.
And there is an old fence down there, so it could have been something.
Yeah. There's an old fence, because it used to be used for cattle and stuff in prior lifetime. But yeah, so there's an old barbed wire fence, but it's got gaps in it and trees have fallen on it, but anyone who knows turkey don't deal with obstacles well. So he was hung up on something down there. He wasn't closing the distance. So we decided to make a move and try and get to the left side of this field so we could look down into over the ridge that he was on. But we obviously didn't want to just go straight over and, you know, make it a big scene. So we tried to go down the field and kind of wrap around past where he was. Because, like I said, when we walked into the field, it sounded like he was to the left and almost all the way at the back of the field. By the time we had called for 20 minutes, he was probably halfway up the field, almost parallel to where we were sitting, but he was just down below and couldn't get up to us. So we worked down.
You went farther into the field?
Further into the field, 3/4 of the way towards the end of the field, and then crossed over the field to the left side.
Okay.
And set up, and then tried to call him kind of, because we were on the same side now as him, tried to call him back to us. But no sooner did we set up on that side of the field, and he completely went silent. So all we can assume is that we spooked him, busted him out of there. Never saw him. He never flew off or made a big scene about leaving, but he went totally silent. Never made another noise.
Yeah.
Kept calling. There was another turkey gobbling way off. No idea where it even was in terms of not on property we can hunt. Don't think it was even responding to the calls. I mean, it was far off. But there was another turkey that kept firing off. And we decided after another 20 minutes probably of sitting there, trying different calling, trying not calling, trying different things. Crow call, whatever, different stuff. Never heard from that turkey again, and we decided to move on and try something else.
So at that point, you didn't really get onto any other turkeys at that point, or?
No, I was very hopeful because, like I said, it started the morning off and that turkey was gobbling, and so at that point we just kind of threw our hands up and said, well, we'll find another one. The turkeys are gobbling today.
Yeah.
But that was the last real opportunity, real gobble we heard. I mean, we heard a couple faint, distant gobbles. We were walking a 4-wheeler path and we busted a hen out that actually held really tight. Like she was very, very close to us when she flushed.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I've never had a turkey hold that tight. I didn't look to investigate. I don't know if maybe she had a nest there. I have no idea. but she flushed out of there pretty quick. But
That's a good point. It seems like it would be early, but maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
because you're right. Like, because you said it like 5-10 feet
Yeah.
you were from her when she
She was
jumped.
10 feet at the most when she busted out of there. It was enough to startle me.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny because we had just, 10 minutes earlier flushed another bird that we're pretty sure was a grouse of some sort. Wasn't big enough to be a turkey.
Yeah.
But it was a large bird that flushed kind of like a grouse would. So we were talking, grouse will scare you to death, they hold pretty tight. And then next thing we knew, there was a turkey we flushed 10 feet away, and that made me jump.
Yeah.
But that was a hen. And then was one other hen that we were actually just standing on a field edge, getting ready to kind of start our way down a ridge, and we were talking about our game plan, where we're going to head, how we want to work this ridge, and weren't even making any calls, or we were just talking, quietly between the two of us, and there was a hen that started clucking. She couldn't have been more than 20 yards away. She was just on the other side of some brush. We couldn't see her. So we tried to set up real quick behind a bush in this field, hoping that she had a tom with her, but she never made another noise, never saw or heard from any other turkey. So did a couple setups. Once it got later in the day and we realized the birds actually weren't gobbling, we just got lucky. And a couple other setups with decoy, whatever, trying different stuff.
Yeah.
A couple deer. Saw a couple deer walk by, but no other turkeys.
Yeah. I saw a couple deer and 2 turtles today. And so, you haven't heard much from Jeff because, as we've said, he's the huntin'est mofo on this podcast. And Jeff has a story to tell. So I haven't heard the whole story, and I would imagine if you follow us on social, you'll probably have seen the pictures and stuff by now, but Jeff, take it away.
So, this morning I got up, and the past 4 or 5 years, I've hunted the same ridge top. There always seems to be toms up there, so, I headed up there first thing this morning.
So this is, on our road that our cabin's on, not even halfway, I guess, how do I describe it? It's not halfway down the road, but it's a ways down the road on the right side of the road versus the left. Jake, you and I have kind of been focusing on the left side of the road. Jeff is on the right side of the road. So just to kind of give you some spatial relation, right?
So it might be, I don't know, is it a mile down the road? Not even. It might be a mile. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Might not.
But you went all the way up on top?
Yeah, I went all the way up on top.
Okay.
There's a couple of different sets of pines up there, some old oak trees. So it's just kind of a real turkey kind of place, It's the kind of place you'd expect to see some turkey. So I set up there, at daybreak, called, on and off all morning. Well, not all morning, but called on and off till about, 8:30.
And were you hearing anything at that point? Or
Gobble's way far off
okay.
in the distance, and I heard one hen. I don't know what the technical term is for it, but when hens are waking up, when they're coming out of the roost, sometimes they do some rapid fire vocalizations.
Like a fly down cackle or something?
Yeah, it's probably, yeah. So
Okay.
like the cackling and, it's just rapid fire vocalizations. I heard that, coming from one of the sets of pines. That was it. So it was pretty slow morning for me. So then I decided that I would start working my way down the ridge, just kind of calling to see what I could hear. And
so farther down the road, not or back toward the cabin.
Farther down.
Farther down. Okay.
Yeah. So I go down. There's another set of pines down there. I was in those pines, and, hearing nothing, doing a lot of calling and, walking and calling.
Do you find that turkeys like hanging out in pines, or they just use them as roost trees, or?
I think they use them as roost trees, and I think they like the open, there's not a lot of...
They can see, because there's the needles, or...
Toms like them as a good strutting area.
Okay.
It's an open area for them to be strutting in. So I was in those pines, and all of a sudden I started hearing gobbles all the way on the other side of the hollow in another set of pines over there. And so I kind of sat there for a few minutes, kind of calling, and it's responding to my calls, but it's
a long way away.
Yeah, long ways away. So I decide, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the hike. I'm going to go all the way around and get over in those pines.
So instead of bombing down and back up, you were going to follow it around the back of the bowl or whatever, the hollow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went out the front to the road and then back up. Actually, is what I did. And I basically ran because there was a hot tom and I wanted to get on it before it was, got some hens or got tired of gobbling.
Got to get while the getting's good.
So I basically sprinted all the way around, got over to the other side, set up, started calling. Well, this tom had switched spots with me, basically. The hillside I was on, it's on now, and I'm on the hillside it was on.
That always seems to happen. A couple years ago, we were down here with our cousin, and we had the same thing. Like, we were over on one side of the road calling, and we could hear toms on the other side of the road. And now I don't think this was a switcheroo in this instance. I think we then moved over there, and I think another tom, then the one that we were after, went quiet, and now back over where we were, turkey started gobbling. So, I don't know. That's enough to make you crazy, but anywho, continue.
Yeah, so, but it was lower on the hill, so now we're both kind of at the bottom of the hillsides. So I decided to set up and start calling. Cause we're a lot closer now to one another. Well, that turkey, I called it out off that hillside. Well, in the bottom is a little flat that's open, and it made it to that flat and it wasn't coming out. It wanted me to come to it. It was down there strutting. I was only maybe 60, 70 yards away. I could see it down there.
Okay.
And it wasn't coming out. And the crows were just bullying it. I mean, just going crazy, dive bombing it, and, really, really getting after it. So it got fed up with that and ran out of the flat and stopped gobbling. So I kind of, moved and set up out in front of where it was kind of going.
So you're, at that point, before you moved, you were on the left side of the flat and it was on the right side of the, like if you're looking back in? Or?
Yeah, I was on the left hillside. It was on the right hillside.
Okay.
And then it went down to the flat.
Alright.
So, but then
And so when the crows chased it out of the field, it went back up onto the right side?
It went, back the hollow and back right.
Okay.
So I went further back the hollow and set up, started calling again, and was calling and it was gobbling, and then I heard it kind of fly away, made a big ruckus and kind of stopped gobbling. So at this point I kind of figured, alright, I've harassed this tom enough right now. I'm gonna give it some time to cool off, and I'm gonna go up the hill and see if I can get on a different bird. Cause this one seemed to be wise to me. It wasn't,
What do you think the big ruckus was? Like, you think it maybe flew across something, or?
Yeah. I wasn't sure if a stick fell or if it flew away. Something, it startled it, flew away. I wasn't really sure at this point what it was.
Okay.
But I worked my way all the way up the hill, walked out the ridge over there, didn't hear a thing. So, and I walked out that ridge to probably about 10 o'clock. And then, decided to come back down, and I was gonna go up the other side of that hollow, back up to where I originally started, basically, where I heard the first gobbles, because that's kind of where that tom ended up going. So I walk all the way back down the ridge, and I'm starting to go back up the other side, and there's a four-wheeler path. I jump a turkey out of this four-wheeler path. And it didn't really, it kind of busted its way through the brush. It didn't fly away. It just kind of, busted and flopped and,
So it didn't run, but it didn't, it kind of half flew?
Yeah, it kind of half flew, through the brush.
I see, yeah,
It didn't really go very far. Well, the noise of that, turkey doing that had startled another tom that was back down in the bottom. So I went back down the hill and set up on that tom.
What do you mean startled it? Like it gobbled?
Yeah, I think it shock gobbled.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
It shock gobbled, sorry. Yeah, so I set up on that tom. I went back down the hill and set up on that tom. I called, and it just, nothing was happening. Quiet.
So you could see that turkey?
When I was up on the hill, I could see it.
Okay.
So then when I went down in the bottom, I couldn't see it anymore. I didn't know where it was at. So, I set up and I called for a little while and nothing ever happened. So I then decided, okay, I'm gonna head back up this hill to where I was when I heard the first gobble. So I got up to where I had jumped the turkey out of the path and kind of was like, well, I'm gonna kind of follow where that turkey went. Go that way and kind of see, what it was doing. Why it kind of, flew / ran away like that. Well, I kind of was following that, and all of a sudden, I see the turkey again. I see the red head of a tom, and it does kind of the little short fly thing, and then it spreads its wings out, short fly / stumble, and then it spreads its wings out and glides down to the bottom.
So how close was it when you saw it? How close were you to the turkey?
Very close. Maybe 15 yards at the most.
Okay.
So, it put its wings out and glided down to the bottom again. So I went back down to the bottom and tried to call it again.
Now, you kind of backed back out the way you would come in, or you just followed where...
No, I backed out the way I came.
Okay.
And went back down to the bottom and tried calling, because I thought maybe, I had busted a couple of birds up, and they're going to want to try to meet back up.
Right, okay.
So I was calling, and I could see this tom in that bottom, and it's moving around in the bottom, and it's moving weird. Kind of when it was walking, it was putting its wings down. Strange. And it would kind of just move weird. It would flap its wings when it was walking.
Okay.
And it's just weird. But yeah, it never came closer to me, and it kind of had worked its way down over, a little knoll in that bottom. So I decided, okay, I'm going to try to creep over there and, see if I can get closer and maybe pop up over that knoll and it'd be right there and shoot it.
Right.
So I creep over there and I, pop up over that knoll, like look over it, and the turkey's not where I thought it was. So then I'm kind of like, oh, where'd it go? And I looked to my left, and there it was, like 10 yards away.
Oh, wow.
To my left. Very close. So I pulled the gun up and shot it.
So do you think you called it in, or it was just in the field and you happened to kind of sneak up on it, or?
I think it was just in the field and I just kind of happened to sneak up on it.
Okay. And so it went down.
Yeah.
Turkey down.
Yep. When I got up to the turkey, I discovered why it was moving so strangely. It had a broken leg. I think it got spurred by another tom fighting, and it broke its leg.
Yeah, because we looked at that, and it was definitely broken, and there was a wound there of sorts, where like and I don't even know if you would call it skin or whatever, but like the flesh or whatever had been cut away or scraped away or something there, right?
Yeah.
Like it was, and so yeah, I wonder. I would imagine has something to do with why you were able to get so close to it so many times, right? I mean, because usually, other than the one Jacob about stepped on, usually you're not going to get that close to a turkey.
Yeah, I think it was holding tight because it couldn't run away. It that wasn't an option. It only had the option of flying away.
So that was a pretty big turkey. I mean, we don't have a scale down here, but I mean, like weight-wise, it was a heavy turkey. And so here we sit Saturday night, and out of the group of us, that's our only turkey. So that was that.
The spurs were crazy on that turkey.
Long spurs. Did you ever measure them?
Yeah. They were, to be generous, I would say 1.5 inches.
They were long spurs.
They were probably a little bit less than 1.5 inches, but they were pretty close to. If they weren't 1.5 inches, they were pretty close.
Yeah. So that was cool though. That was exciting, especially because like we've said, I don't know. I feel like we've said it like a million times. We don't get great cell service down here, so you never really know who's got what or if anybody's got anything when you come back to the cabin. So it was nice to come for me, after kind of getting my tail handed to me, I come back to the cabin and kind of bummed out, and Jeff had a turkey, so that was all good. And then got the turkey taken care of, had lunch, and then we worked on firewood basically the rest of the evening. Get that ready for deer season this fall. So, anything else exciting you guys saw today that you want to touch on? You guys are going to hunt some more tomorrow, right? Tomorrow morning?
Assuming this rain stops.
Yeah. We're sitting in Jake's truck and it's raining, so if you hear the relaxing pitter-patter of the rain outside, that's what it is.
I found a little shed today. That was cool.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was 2-3 point shed.
It had 2 points. Yeah.
Sort of the exciting thing though was, Jeff, you were saying like just the barely the tip of it was sticking out of it was in the water or something?
It was in like a mud puddle, yeah.
Okay.
Like pushed down in the mud and then just the tip was sticking out, and what I thought it was originally was like some sort of mushroom. So I was looking at it like, that's a weird mushroom, and then realized that's not a mushroom, that's an antler.
Speaking of mushrooms, you found some morels today.
Yeah, I found 2 morels, yeah. That was cool as well. The one was right in a deer trail.
Huh.
You know, and so I almost stepped on it, and then I looked around for more in that area, and, you know, maybe, I don't know, 4 foot away, underneath a log, kind of, that was there was another one.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. Alright, so anything else you guys... I know I asked you that already, but I'm giving you a second chance at a last call. Nothing?
Nothing from me. Let's hope this rain stops so we can get out again in the morning.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm not coming back to the cabin to hunt for turkeys, but I might try to get out to Grandpa's farm or something and chase turkeys a little bit. I hate to just give up on my tag, especially after not ever really getting close, you know. It's kind of a bummer, but that's the way it goes, you know. It's hunting, not shopping.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, then we'll sign off. Appreciate everybody listening. And hopefully you guys are having better luck than Jacob and I are. Jeff got one, but...
which was mostly luck.
Well, sometimes a little luck is all you need.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're going to shut it off, head back into the cabin, and probably go to sleep here so we can get up and get after the birds tomorrow. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.